We're here with Yvonne Thomas at the from the EBU. She's currently in the 10E committee working on some exciting standards. And Yvonne, we're very happy to have you with us. It's nice to have a young person involved in the standards. And I was going to tell you before that you should continue to work. When you're done with your work, continue with us, please. So Yvonne, we're going to talk about some of the stuff you're working on. In terms of lighting, television lighting, there's obviously a problem there with reproducing colors. Can you give us a little idea of why the standards work is important now, what you're working on?
Yeah, so it has a little bit of a history. So we saw that the CRI, the Color Rendering Index, has been developed in the last century, mainly on the human visual system, so how humans perceive it, how the eyes perceive it, but not necessarily on how cameras reproduce the colors. So nowadays we saw actually that the colors don't match perfectly with high efficiency lighting, so new studio lighting in specific. So already in the 70s, the BBC has started some work on a new index to give an indication of how good a light even produces the colors. Specifically for cameras and not on the human visual system. So there was not really a takeover in that work, so there were still the CRI, there were new versions of that, it was a little bit modernized, but still not appropriate actually for the modern lighting. So 2 years ago the EBU then has established a working group on that, so a project to roll this out and then to work on the TLCI, the Television Consistency Lighting Index.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to go into that. So that's where SMPTE comes in. So what you're doing now is you're working with the 10E committee, and you have you're proposing the Television Lighting Consistency Index and the Television Lighting Matching Factor. So can you go a little bit into that?
Exactly. So the TLCI actually gives an indication, so it's a kind of a scale in the end that gives you an indication how good or bad your colors are being reproduced. So even though your white pointers, so your blacks and whites and gray colors, are very nicely reproduced, you have a good scale of that. Your colors, so your reds, your greens, your blues or your yellows, don't match what you want, so that you have a quite bad picture quality at the end.
Right.
So skin tones look very bluish or greenish in the worst case. That means people don't look very healthy, and this is the worst you want to have.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly, and the TLCI then gives an indication whether you can correct your image, so the colors in post-production or not, and so how high the chances are actually.
So does it give you sort of an index of where the colors should be, and then you have to basically match to that? What about the matching factor?
Yeah, so if you decide to mix luminaires, so for example a tungsten light and an LED light in a production, then you need to know how good they match together to get a result and to reproduce the colors. So this matching factor gives an indication if two light sources work properly together or not, and if they in one shot can reproduce the color you want.
Interesting. So the work has started already. Do you estimate any time of completion? When is that going to happen, or when do you expect it to happen?
So we think that the drafting group in the 10E would finish their work end of 2014. So it's quite a short work. So the main work is done, all the mathematics are already figured out. So now it needs to also be transferred to cinema rather than only television, and also updating to all the newer cameras, etc.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke briefly before the interview about UHD-TV. I know you do some work with the EBU on UHD-TV. How does this apply to the UHD-TV format? What's happening with the lighting and the indexing and the matching factor? How does UHD-TV play in all this?
Oh, in fact, actually there is no direct link between it at the moment. Rather than we're saying the work on the LEDs is something we work on the high efficiency lighting, so it's a little bit of green broadcasting as well. So we go down down from the consumption, power consumption. In the end, I mean ultra high actually, ultra high definition goes up.
Right.
In the end, but especially for ultra high definition, the colors, we've seen this is a very important factor.
Yes.
So having bad light sources in the production, in the end, gives also very bad quality for the ultra high definition.
Yeah, it's all very important stuff. Thank you very much, Yvonne. So you can find out more at SMPTE.org, and standards.synthia.org for any related documents.